arrived yet when Toto-chan got to the door of the railroad car the headmaster had told her would be her classroom. It was an old-fashioned car, one that still had a door handle on the outside. You took hold of the handle with both hands and slid the door to the right. Toto-chan's heart was beating fast with excitement as she peeped inside. Ooh! Studying here would be like going on a perpetual journey. The windows still had baggage racks above them. The only difference was there was a blackboard at the front of the car, and the lengthwise seats had been replaced by school desks and chairs still facing forward. The hand straps had gone too, but everything else had been left just as it was. Toto-chan went in and sat down at someone's desk. The wooden chairs resembled those at the other school, but they were so much more comfortable she could sit on them all day. Toto-chan looked out the window. She knew the train was stationary, but was it because the flowers and trees and the school grounds were swaying slightly in the breeze? It seemed to be moving. "I'm happy," she finally said out loud. Then she pressed her face against the window and made up a song. "Sritachi futsuka mika yoka." And just at that moment, someone got on. It was a girl. She took out her notebook and pencil box out of her school bag and put them on her desk. Then she stood on tiptoe and put the bag on the rack. She put her shoe bag up there too. Toto-chan stepped up and quickly did the same. Eventually, there were 9 pupils in the car. They comprised the first grade at Tomoe Gakuen. They would all be traveling together on the same train. Now, going to school on the railroad car seemed unusual enough, but the sitting arrangements turned out to be unusual too. At the other school, each pupil was assigned a specific desk, but here they were allowed to sit anywhere they liked at any time. After a lot of thought and a good look around, Toto-chan decided to sit next to the girl who had come after her that morning because the girl was wearing a pinafore with a long-eared rabbit on it. The most unusual thing about this school, however, was the lessons themselves. Now, schools usually schedule one subject, for example, Japanese, the first period, and the second when you just do arithmetic. But here it was quite different. At the beginning of the first period, the teacher made a list of all the problems and questions that the students would do that day. Then she would say, "Start with any of these you like." So whether you started on Japanese or arithmetic didn't matter at all. Someone who liked composition might be writing something, while someone behind you might be boiling something over an alcohol burner, so that an explosion was liable to occur in any of the classrooms. Now, this method of teaching enabled the teachers to observe, as the children progressed to higher grades, what they were interested in, as well as their way of thinking and their character. It was an ideal way for the teachers to get to know their pupils. And as for the pupils, they loved being able to start with their favorite subject. And the fact that they had all day to deal with the subjects that they disliked meant that they could finish them somehow. And so study was mostly independent, with pupils free to go and consult the teacher whenever necessary. The teacher would come to them too, if they wanted, and explain to them until it was thoroughly understood. The pupils would be given further exercises to work at alone, and in this way, it meant that there were no pupils just sitting inattentively while the teacher talked and explained. Now, the first grade students hadn't quite reached the stage of independent study, but even they were allowed to start with any subject they liked. Some copied letters of the alphabet, some drew pictures, some read books, and some even did calisthenics. Now, the girl next to Toto-chan already knew all her alphabet and was writing it into the notebook. It was also unfamiliar to Toto-chan, and she was a bit nervous and unsure of what to do. Just then, the boy sitting behind her got up and walked towards the blackboard with his notebook, apparently to consult the teacher. She sat at the desk, explaining something to another student. Toto-chan stopped looking around and, with a chin cupped in her hands, fixed her eyes on his back as he walked. The boy dragged his leg, and his whole body swayed dreadfully. Toto-chan wondered at first if he was doing it on purpose, but she soon realized the boy couldn't help it. Toto-chan went on watching him as the boy came back to his desk. Their eyes met. The boy smiled. Toto-chan hardly smiled back. When he sat down at the desk behind her, it took him longer than the other children to sit down. She turned around and asked, "Why do you walk like that?" He replied quietly, with a gentle voice that sounded intelligent, "I have polio." "Polio?" Toto-chan repeated, having never heard the word before. "Yes, polio," he whispered. "It's not only my leg, but my hand." He held it out. Toto-chan looked as it had at his left hand. His long fingers were bent and looked as if they were stuck together. "Can't they do anything about it?" she asked, concerned. He didn't reply, and Toto-chan became embarrassed, wishing she hadn't asked. But the boy said quietly, "My name's Yasuyaki Yamamoto. What's yours?" She was so glad to hear him speak in such a cheerful voice that she replied loudly, "I'm Toto-chan." And that's how Yasuyaki Yamamoto and Toto-chan became friends. The sun made it quite hot inside the train. Someone opened a window, and a fresh spring breeze blew through the car and tossed the children's hair about with carefree abandon. And in this way, Toto-chan's first day at Tomoe Gakuen began. Thank you.